Welcome to Balanced Life Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Angela Clark. Life is a crazy, wonderful adventure, and it can pull you in every direction, sometimes all at once. Can you really achieve success in one area of life without losing it all everywhere else? Can it really be done? Are you up for a good challenge? Well, let's get started. Hey, this is your host, Angela, and welcome back. This is episode 11, and today I'm going to start in on something new for us. I've talked about books that I found really interesting and books that I thought could be really helpful, and it's been fun, these first several episodes. But now I want to dive into an old favorite of mine, actually, something that I know for sure has made a huge impact in my life and in my marriage and in balancing my life. After all, the whole point of this podcast is to have a balanced life. Hence the name, Balanced Life Entrepreneur. You may find success at work or your career or your business, but if you don't have success in other areas of your life, you don't have a balance. It's only when we find a balance between work and friendships and relationships and family and self-care, it's only when we find that balance that we're truly happy. So, yes, the other books that we have talked about relationship building. They've talked about goal setting a lot, and all that stuff is vital. But this book that I want to talk about now talks about building a strong marriage or building a strong relationship, or in fact, building strong relationships with everyone that we interact with. It's called The 5 Love Languages. And yeah, this book is talking about, it says how to express heartfelt commitment to your mate. So yeah, it's talking about marriage and relationships in that perspective. But I have found through life that once you learn these 5 love languages, you automatically apply them to relationships with your children, your parents, coworkers, friends, family, everyone that you come in contact with. It actually changes the way you interact with them. So this book was written in 1992. I guess it's a classic by now. And I'm not sure when I found it, but I think I found it when it was fairly new. And it has been pretty important in the development of relationships in my life. I have recommended this book over the years to several people, and I do find myself mentally trying to figure out people's love languages. In fact, over the years, I think my husband and I have sometimes just had a conversation about so-and-so, and what do you think their love language is? We've definitely had conversations about what are the love languages of our children. And as an employer, I have definitely referenced this book in dealing with my employees, especially when they have issues between each other or when I'm really struggling to communicate something to them that I need them to change what they're doing or the way they're doing something. This book has been so very beneficial. So again, before I dive into this book, the title is The 5 Love Languages, How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate. And the author is Gary Chapman. Now, if you've never read this book before, I encourage you to get this book in your hands. Get the audiobook, get the hard copy, whatever you need, but get this book. I guarantee if you read this book with an open mind and wanting to make a difference in your life and those in relationships with you, this book is vital. Now, as we get started, again, this book is talking about romantic relationships, marital relationships, but take the knowledge that you learn in this relationship book and apply it to all of the relationships in your life. In fact, I do think that after this initial book, they came out with other ones that were the 5 love languages for parents and things like that. But I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not taking the time to look it up. I'm just telling you, this book can be applied to every relationship in your life. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit here. With all the books, magazines, and all the practical help available, why is it that so few couples seem to have found the secret to keeping love alive? Why is it that a couple can attend a communication workshop or hear wonderful ideas on how to enhance communication, then find themselves totally unable to actually implement the communication patterns they just learned about? There's information all over the place, right? Pick up any magazine or blog post. There's always an article, something like 10 ways to let your spouse know you love her, or 20 ways to keep your man at home, or 365 expressions of marital love. But really, how many of us read those articles? We try one or two of the suggestions. It doesn't seem to make a difference. We forget about everything else in the articles and just go back to our normal way of living. Okay, so let me back up just a bit. Let me pose a couple of questions. Have you ever wondered, after you get married, or after you're in a relationship with someone for a while, what happens to love after that big commitment, right? After the wedding? Is it normal that, things just kind of fizzle out? Your sex life gets bland, the communication kind of falls off. Is it normal that you just kind of put up with each other? Is it normal that you'd rather go golfing or hang out with the boys than spend time with your wife? Or is it normal that you would rather spend time on social media than spend time one-on-one with your husband? Do you still like each other? Now you may say, of course I love my husband. He's the father of my children. We've been married for 5 years, blah, blah, blah. Do you still like the man? When you're away from him, do you think about him? When you're getting dressed in the morning, do you think about, wow, he would really like this? Do you think about ways to turn him on? Do you think about ways to show him how much you love him? And yes, good grief, I know you're busy. Men, I can't speak to you very much on this subject because, obviously, I've never been in your shoes. But, ladies, I can speak as a wife and a mom and a business owner. And yes, I know you are freaking tired. I know you're overworked, you're overwhelmed, and sometimes romance really takes the back burner. I know it takes the back burner really easily because we are caregivers, and in our minds, romance, that's for us. That's a pleasure that we take. And when we have children and work and responsibilities and all that stuff in our life, that tends to take the front burner because we consider romance as taking care of ourselves. And we don't need that, right? We are the caregivers taking care of everybody else, except for ourselves. Or maybe you see it like, my husband shouldn't need that either. We're adults now. We're responsible for everything else in our life. We don't have time for that. I don't know why we do this to ourselves, to our spouses. I mean, they're supposed to be the most important thing in our lives. And yet, I know this is both men and women. We tend to push each other to the side to, quote, handle more important things, end quote. And I don't think we do it consciously. I just think we get lazy and assume that that other person is going to always be there and our relationship will be just fine. Until one day you wake up and you realize you don't have anything in common with the man who sleeps next to you at night. You're not even sure if you like the man. And when did it all fall apart? When did the love die? I don't think most relationships die in a huge explosion of fighting and fury. I think most slowly fizzle out without you even noticing. So if you recognize that and you want to do something about it and you really want to have that balance in your life, it takes books just like this one, learning the 5 love languages of the people that are most important to you in your life. This book is meant to answer all those questions that I just posed to you. Now, everyone has a different way to feel love and express love. We tend to express love the way we feel love, but the people in our lives, if they don't share that love language, it's like we're talking in a completely different language. Now, I remember the first time I heard this, and I thought, I do this and this and this and this for my husband. You mean to tell me that he doesn't understand that I do that because I love him? And yes, that's exactly what it's saying. Okay, so psychologists have concluded that the need to feel loved is a primary human emotional need. For love will climb mountains, cross seas, traverse desert sands like all the love songs and movies, right? And will endure untold hardships. Without love, mountains become unclimbable, seas uncrossable, deserts unbearable. Or maybe I can't even get out of bed in the morning. But love can be pretty darn confusing. We love our dog. We love McDonald's French fries. We love binging our favorite show. We even love the idea of love. But what we're really going to discover is the kind of love that is important to our emotional health. The author of this book, Dr. Gary Chapman, he suggests that deep inside hurting couples exists an invisible love tank. With its gauge on empty, the misbehavior, withdrawal, harsh words, and critical spirit occur because of an empty love tank. With a full tank, couples are able to create an emotional climate where it is possible to discuss differences and resolve conflicts. Can this really be the secret to a successful marriage? Dr. Chapman thinks so, and I gotta agree, it's a pretty vital component. So in the next couple of episodes, I'm really going to dive in specifically to each love language. First, let me tell you, the 5 love languages are quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Well, geez, I need all of these. And we all do. But again, each of us have one specific one that really, really speaks to us. I'm really excited to really dive into this, but I'm going to let it go right there today. I'm going to challenge you. Pick up this book and really try to figure out what's your love language, and then pick one person in your life and try to figure out what their love language is, because that's the point of this book, learning to speak someone else's language. Now, over the last couple of episodes, I've tried to find someone who is an example of what we've been talking about. So I Googled the most successful marriages in Hollywood because we all know the stereotype that Hollywood marriages never last. But I figured bad news travels faster than good news, so there has to be some successful marriages of famous people that we all know. And I wasn't wrong. It's just that their successful marriages aren't considered newsworthy. So I've got a ton of them, but I'm going to leave you with this one. Did you know that Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick have been married for 33 years? That is awesome. I would like to hear those stories more than the ones about so-and-so getting divorced after 3 months. I guess it's just not newsworthy, is it? Oh, and here's another one for you. Denzel and Paulette Washington. They got married in 1983. That means they've been married for 38 years. Man, I would love to see some gossip magazine news articles about couples that have been married for over 30 years. Oh my gosh, we're at the end of the podcast already, and there's so much more to talk about. I can't wait for the next episode. I hope you'll come back and join me as we really dive into what the heck are these 5 love languages, and how can we really recognize them in the people around us and in the people that, oh my gosh, we really want our loved ones to feel our love, right? You want to speak their language so they know how important they are to us. And how else can we really achieve that successful life if we can't figure out the balance that it takes? It takes balance to really be happy in life. We could have great success in one area and total failure in another. And that will encompass us, and you never get that peacefulness. that true, rounded, balanced life success brings you. So I'll tell you what, guys, figure out this week how to get a hold of this book. Study it a little bit and try to figure out what your love language is. And like I said, pick one person and try to figure out what their love language is. And maybe post in the comments. Maybe you already think you know what your love language is or what your spouse's love language is. Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So don't forget, take that little finger right down and hit that subscribe button. Comment, like, share, all that good stuff. Let your friends know you're listening to a freaking awesome podcast. All right, guys, go conquer your world. And I'll see you right here for the next episode.